Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are at with the new content, right? Learn with me session number 4. Yes, as you guys know, when we are getting into a lot of new developments in generative AI, we are getting it back. So today I'm very excited for this session called Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace. As you guys know, you might have heard about it, right? Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace, which is not generally available till now. It's available in a preview mode, but I'm gonna deeply, let's say, what are all those things you need to know, the permission boundaries, service role, provisioning role, and finally the OSS, the OpenSearch serverless policies, where I'm gonna show you how I created the Bedrock Studio Workspace, which can help us to let's see what actually the Bedrock Studio Workspace is all about and what are the other services which is being combined with it. So if you are new to my channel, right, please subscribe and like the previous sessions. And if you are new and if you don't know me, I'm Rahul and I'm the AWS community builder in machine learning and generative AI category. And I'm also a machine learning engineer, work at firms and freelance too. So today the session title is Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace, a workspace for builders and explorers to experiment generative AI models and start creating Gen AI apps. So we're gonna go and start giving you a base of it, and I've already created, but it's gonna be very simple. It's gonna be 1 to 3 stuff. You have to create the roles and policies, and you have to attach the policy to the roles and stuff like that. That's going to be the thing you have to do inside it, right? So let's get into the video, right? So the agenda of the session is going to be, we are going to talk about what Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace is all about. Then I'm going to deeply talk about the 5 steps process to create your Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace. Then we're going to decode the permission boundary, service role, and the provisioning role. Why? Because these 3 things are very important in the when we are creating the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace, because it will come under the 5 steps what you're going to work into it. Then we're going to create the OpenSearch serverless encryption policy, but I'm not going to do it because it's not needed for you right now. But without that also it will work, and we can able to share our the Bedrock Studio Workspace to our other explorers and other builders out there. And how to add the members from the identity management to Bedrock Studio. It's going to be very simple. You can just have a drag and drop option over there. And finally I'm going to show you the demo what I've already created, like the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace what I've created. So I just took this picture from the internet, and typically the workspace, right, where the developers works in a project. So say that they're gonna work in one single project, maybe another generative AI project they are gonna work into it. Say they want to want to experiment other AI models. Say right now there are a lot of foundational models available in Amazon Bedrock, right? So starting with Amazon's Titan model to Meta's model to Anthropic to Claude's, and we do have stable diffusion models. So we have lot of varieties of model, right? So to make sure that have the other explorers and other builders in your company, say that you are working in a company called as X, and if there are other builders want to experiment your apps, right? Experiment the Gen AI apps created by you or created by them, to make sure you have to play accordingly how far the apps has been created. So until then we don't have any kind of workspace where we can able to share our Gen AI apps. We do have only one platform called as Bedrock, where we can able to create our own generative AI apps and share it. But can we have a workspace, say like if you are a part of an organization, right? So if you are a part of an organization, if you are a builder or an explorer, right? If you're a part of an organization want to use the same Gen AI app created by your explorers or the community or the builders, then the option is going to be the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace. Right now it's not available in the generally availability mode, it's available only in the preview mode. To make sure to test it around and how far it is going to be used, and these are the 5 steps. So the 5 steps what we gonna mention over here in this video is the thing you need to know, and you can also follow that in the I've created in the US East 1 version, and you can take care of that too. So now let's talk about what is all about the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace, and just a disclaimer that I've taken this content from the Amazon doc, so please don't make sure that the content is only available here. You can just go and type Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace in Google, and you can just take up the docs and you can able to have a look. But that's what I said, right? So if you want to have a unique workspace for your organization, so that myself and my friend and my colleagues and my managers and my team leads, etc., stuff like that, people who want to work on the same Gen A apps and want to explore the generative AI apps available in the Amazon Bedrock, and they don't even want to be a part of AWS, right? They don't even want to be a part of an AWS account. We are just going to share the link to them and they can able to work on it. They don't want to have an AWS account at all, right? That's the major stuff all about the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace. So to be more precise, the Amazon, if you just see, you'll also have what can I say, the an URL. So the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace is a web application that lets users in your organization easily experiment with the Amazon Bedrock models and build applications, and a very important stuff, without having to use an AWS account. So you don't want to use like the users who are going to use the Bedrock Studio Workspace, they don't want to have an AWS account. Why? Because there will be a unique URL that's going to be a web application like OpenAI's ChatGPT, like how it is going to be a web application which is being used by a lot of users. So it's going to be the same thing, like, but it's going to be done within the organization, or so that the users don't want to have an AWS account, right? And to make sure that what are the things you need to do after to enable your Bedrock Studio for users. So the first thing, you have to use your Bedrock console to create a Bedrock Studio Workspace, and you have to invite the users as member to the workspace. Say I'm gonna be the admin, I'm gonna create the Bedrock Studio Workspace, and in my team there will be 5 members, say A, B, C, D, E, right? So though I have to invite the member A, invite the member B, invite the member C, invite the member D, and invite the member E separately by giving the links, and so that's for the major space. I want to create the identity managements for them, and so that a unique URL will be given to them, so that I can able to deliberately invite them to the a party, right? This is going to be a party. I can deliberately invite them to a party, like say it's going to be the Bedrock Studio Workspace. So you can also work with the knowledge bases and guardrails too. So you can also push your documents. If you want to work in an organization, if you want to push your documents, that's also possible. There is a console over here where you can able to push your documents, like the drop file, drop your PDF file, or drop anything file. And guardrails, you can also set your guardrails to make sure to avoid the hallucinations which is gonna created like the generated by the models present inside the Amazon Bedrock Studio. Amazon Bedrock, right? So, and it's very important, as I said, you have to, for the users who have been set up, right, you are supposed to set up the SSO integration, say the single sign-on integration with the IAM Identity Center and the company's identity provider, like say the IDP things you need to know. So that only when, so you will be having an like the unique ID to the each and every members of so that they can able to access the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace. And the users will sign into the Amazon Bedrock Studio by using the link that is being sent to them. So this is going to be the space, this is going to be the flow of Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace. You will be creating an Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace, and you will be having a single sign-on SSO integration with the IAM Identity Center for each and every members of the organization. And once the link is being sent to each and every members, and the members will use this link, and they will, what may I say, they will come to the Amazon Bedrock Studio. So here when I learned about Amazon Bedrock Studio, right? So when I learned about Amazon Bedrock Studio, I could able to say there was a relationship between the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace and Amazon Data Zone. If you guys know, Amazon Data Zone is a like the data governance service, right, where you can able to govern your data. Like say if you want an admin of your data and you want to know, you are the one who have to allocate who are supposed to use this data and how much time they have to supposed to use the data. So, and Amazon Data Zone is the service which allows the particular point what I said right now, but in a faster and the easier way. So what's gonna be the relationship? Why? Because you're gonna access the data, right? If I create an app for you and that app is being created has been accessed by A, B, C, D, E. So that's my data. So that's where the relationship between the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace and Amazon Data Zone comes into the place. But I've created a list, and this list is available in the docs, and I wanted to make sure that what each and everything, like what's the relationship stuff talks about and how the relationship is gonna be make sure. The first thing is all about the cloud formation. Why? Because Amazon Bedrock Studio will uses the cloud formation where where Amazon Bedrock Studio will be creating a stack for you for the resources in the account. Say if you're gonna have one for the account A, what are the resources to be needed? Why? Because it has huge thing, right? In more precisely, before getting into the much stuff, Bedrock Studio uses S3, Bedrock Studio uses KMS, Bedrock Studio uses CloudWatch. So there are a lot of services used by Bedrock Studio Workspace, and even though OpenSearch, right, for the serverless encryption policies, make sure that so it is also using those things too. And second thing is going to be AWS identity and access management. Why? Because we are going to create a permission boundary. We're going to set a boundary to the provisioning role which is going to be created. Why? Because we're going to limit the provisioning role. Why? Because we're going to create a lot of IAM roles for the provisioning roles. Why? Because we have to enable the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace to each and every member, right? So we have to supposed to attach the IAM roles for each and every member. So make sure that we need to limit the IAM roles. So we have to have a permission boundary to limit the permissions to be attached, and that's the name of the the permission boundary called as Amazon Data Zone Bedrock permission boundary. I'll show you why, because I've already created. Let's have a look, and I also show you that in the VS Code how the things will look like. And third thing is all about Amazon S3. Why? Because the Amazon Bedrock Studio will create the Amazon S3 bucket in your account for each and every project. Why? Because you're going to create a GenAI apps, right? For each and every GenAI app, an Amazon S3 bucket will be created. So now I will be creating, and that project can be used by account A, and the account A project can be used by me, and my project can be used by account B, and this is going to be the vice versa version. So the bucket will store the apps and component definitions as well as the data fields you upload, such as knowledge base files and API schemas for the function. Because you're going to upload the data, right, for the knowledge base, so that data will also be present inside your Amazon S3 only. Then the Amazon Bedrock Studio. Why? Because you might know we do also have a concept called as Amazon Bedrock Agent, knowledge bases, and guardrails. So like Amazon Bedrock Studio will also have the components which can able to create your Bedrock agents, knowledge bases, and guardrails. And it also uses AWS Lambda, where you can Lambda functions are used as a part of the Amazon Bedrock Studio function and knowledge bases components. And you're also using the secret manager, where you'll use the secret managers to store your secret API credentials for the component. Say if you're going to use a document, and that document should be, it's a secret document, right? It's a part of an organization document, so where you have to store the documents. So what happens over here? So you will be using a secret manager to store the to where you can able to store the API credentials of the document or API credentials of the components, guardrails, and other things. Like there are other variations where you can able to store that where you have to store that thing. And finally, CloudWatch. Because if you have seen my latest video on Amazon Bedrock CloudWatch Access, which is a very important stuff. So Amazon Bedrock Studio will create the log rules in your account to store the information about the Lambda functions that the component creates. And for more information, where you can able to see the Bedrock Studio logging, but I'm not going to show you why, because this is very much enough, right? So this is what the relationship is all about. Say you want to know about cloud formation, IAMs, S3, Bedrock Studio, Lambda, Secrets Manager, and CloudWatch. Now let's have a look, right? So what is going to be the 5-step process to create your Amazon Studio Bedrock Studio Workspace? So if you see any kind of things is missing, so please pardon me. Like it's going to be Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace. So the first thing, right, whenever you are creating the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace, you are supposed to set up an AWS IAM identity center for the Amazon Bedrock Studio. Why? Because you are going to invite the members. Say I'm going to invite A, B, C, D and E. So I have to, set up the IAM identity center. I have to create a group and I have to create the user. Say I have to create a user called as A with this mail ID, so that I have to send a link to it. And I have to send B, send C, send D, send E. Right? So that's the step I already created. Just the thing I have created with my other mail ID, and I have created an authenticator app for them, so that it can be authenticated through my Auth app, stuff like that. And step 2 is gonna be, you're gonna create the permission boundary, service role and provisioning role. So we are gonna decode the permissioning boundary, decode the service role and decode the provisioning role in the next consecutive slides what we're gonna take a look, and I'll also show you the Bedrock Studio Workspace, how it looks next. And third step is gonna be, you're gonna create the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace. You can go to the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace in the Bedrock console. You'll be asking about the permission boundary, service role and the provisioning role. Once it is done, it's not a mandatory thing where you have to create an Amazon OpenSearch serverless encryption policy. I'm just going to show you how what is Amazon OpenSearch serverless encryption policy, but I haven't created that. Then finally, you have to add the workspace members. So this is going to be the 5-step process. Why? Because if you being a part of an organization, say that you have to work together to make sure that how we can able to create some GenAI apps and experiment with each other. Then these are the 5 steps. So make sure to use it if you are being a part of an organization. Then let's decode the permission boundaries. I said in the beginning itself, right? So the Amazon data zone Bedrock permission boundary, right? So we are going to create a permission boundary like that. So first of all, what permission boundary is all about that? The permission boundary is an advanced feature for using a managed policy to set the maximum permissions that an identity-based policy can grant to an IAM entity. That's the very thing. Why? Because we don't want to allocate more permissions to the IAM entity. We have to allocate only the maximum permissions needed for the IAM entity so that they can able to work on it. So that's going to be called as permission boundary. And how this permission boundary is being used is nothing but because I already said provisioning role, we have to provision the IAM roles for each and every component. Say for guardrails, say for knowledge base, what we're going to work into it. So which is going to able to create the IAM roles so the permission boundary will restrict the roles that can be created by the provisioning role. We don't want to create more number of roles. We can able to create only limited and maximum number of roles. That's a very important thing. Limited and maximum number of roles. So you don't want to create extra roles which is not needed for the being part of it. So this is called as permission boundaries. And now let's talk about the service role. So what service role is all about, and I'll just have the next slide like what provisioning role is all about too. So what service role is all about? So service role is all about, right? So first thing, right? So service role is all about if you want to manage your Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace, right? As I said, there is a relationship between the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace and Amazon Data Zone service too. So now we want to allow the Amazon Data Zone to manage our workspaces. Why? Because it's gonna be a data governance service where the data has been spread all over to the members, and we're gonna allocate he should be using this, he should be using this, you should not be using this. So this is what we are doing it. So what service role does is that it will let the Amazon Data Zone to manage your workspaces. So manage your workspaces, and what are all the permissions, right, which is being used in service role to manage the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace with the Amazon Data Zone. So the first thing is Data Zone. As I said, we need to grant the access to the Data Zone so that the Bedrock Studio can manage the resources created as part of the Bedrock Studio Workspace. Second thing is going to be resource allocate manager. Why? Because we need to ability to get resource. We have to share the resource that should be securely. So with the help of RAM, we can able to work on it. Fine. Then thirdly, it's going to be Bedrock. We need to grant the ability to invoke the Amazon Bedrock models. We have to allocate. We have to say that listen, Data Zone, you can able to access the Bedrock models. And finally, KMS. If you want, it will allows the provisioning role, what we're going to see in the next slide, to access the KMS keys that you use for the encrypting your workspace. But I haven't used it. That's not going to be the very important stuff, very mandatory thing. If you want to do it, it's not like that. So you can KMS keys are used to encrypt your workspace if you are working in an organization, say, right? So that's not going to be the big issue, right? If you want to work into it point of view. And the right hand side, you could able to see that's going to be the trust policy, the trusted entity for your service role. Like if you want to allow, we have to allow, and the service is going to be the data zone, and the SGS assume role and tag session as the action. And a very important stuff, the tag key should be equal to data zone, and the source account should be our account, the root account what we're going to create, the account what we have used to create for your Amazon Studio Workspace. And the next stuff, right, is going to be the provisioning role for the Amazon Bedrock Studio. As I said, right, to like when we allow the Bedrock Studio to create resources in your user account, but because as you can able to see, we said a cloud formation will be created, and Amazon S3 bucket will be created, Lambda functions will be created, and CloudWatch logs will be created, and there are a lot of things which has been relationship between the Amazon Bedrock Studio and Amazon Bedrock. So since all the resources has been created, we need to create a provisioning role, where the provisioning role, the permissions are listed below. So the first thing is IAM, CloudFormation, Bedrock, the OpenSearch serverless encryption policy, Lambda, logs, KMS, S3, and secrets manager. What and all I've said in the beginning, the same thing. Provisioning role is gonna make sure that, why, because we need to make sure that the Amazon Bedrock Studio should create the resources. Say you have to create all those resources for the users, so we need to have the provisioning, and the right hand side is gonna be the trusted entity for the provisioning role too. So now let's have a look, right, and this is going to be the last step, but because we have seen all those steps, what I'll show you in that right now the demo, right, what is the thing you need to do. And this is going to be the Amazon OpenSearch serverless encryption policy, but because Amazon Bedrock will uses the AO, that's going to be the OSS, Amazon OpenSearch serverless encryption policy, to make sure to encrypt, right, to make sure that to safeguard the members data, say my data, A's data, B's data, and C's data in a collection. We need to use the serverless encryption policy. And very important stuff, that the last point, the workspace members aren't able to create a project until you create the policy. Say if I, but because the A is the workspace member, B is the workspace member, C is the workspace member, and D is the workspace member. Until I create an Amazon OpenSearch serverless encryption policy to safeguard the member data, the workspace members can't able to create a project. But very important stuff, since I have been using right now, I am not making sure that I want to create the OpenSearch serverless encryption policy. Now let's have a look, right? I'll just show you like the Bedrock Studio Workspace. You can go to the I am in my AWS console, and more precisely in Bedrock console. You could able to go to Bedrock Studio, which is still in the preview mode. I've already created a workspace called as Rahul's Workspace, where those things like the permission boundaries and the service role and the provisioning role all should be given. So this is going to be the Amazon Data Zone Bedrock permission boundary, where you have to allow the KMS. Like these are the services, like as I said, these going to be the permission boundary. Like first thing the KMS, second stuff is going to be the Bedrock runtime agent. Like we have to that thing should be allowed, and Bedrock runtime models and job roles, like the invoke model action, invoke model with response stream, retrieve and generate, and guardrails, runtime permissions, function permissions. Finally, with the Bedrock S3 object handling permissions, why? Because we're going to use S3 to store the application data or your knowledge bases, stuff like that too, right? So S3 get object, put object, everything can be created. So like we have created those things, and are supposed to get it with the account ID, but we need to focus on it. And this is the service role, as I said, where the data zone, we have to let the data zone to access the workspace, right? So where we have to allow the data zone's environment, and we also have the RAM, we also have the Bedrock, and finally we also have the KMS point of view. Clear, guys? Yes. Now let's have a look, right? I have already created all those things, and this is going to be the Bedrock Studio Workspace. This is going to be my service role. This is going to be my provisioning role. You could able to have a look over here. Okay, the Bedrock Studio service role policy, right? If you just have a look at this policy, right? So this policy will have like the same thing, the service role policy, what I just told you. And this is what like the Amazon Data Zones policy, like the IAM, data zone policies, the IAM thing, and finally we do have the because we need to get into the Lambda point of view, and we need to make sure the data zone project, the Bedrock Studio, all those provisioning roles we have been created over here too. Now this is gonna be the Bedrock Studio URL. Now let's go back here. Now we are supposed to sign in with SSO. Let's leave this. Okay, you have to sign in with SSO. I'm sure that I can able to remember by password. What's the password I kept over here? If I'm not, yes, so let's give the username where we're gonna sign in with the SSO. So the username is Rahul Gopal, and I've just created. We could be able to check that username in my IAM Identity Center, what I already created, which has been verified. Now let's take a look, right? So the password, I'm gonna give the password like my password, and let's sign in. It will ask you for the MFA code. I'm just gonna take my mobile and will have the MFA code. So why? Because I have authenticated with my thing. So MFA code is 159531. Yes. So now let's sign in. So it will redirect to the Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace thing. Yes. So we are here. So this is gonna be the playground which will be there, and once you build the model, okay, you could able to see your projects. You can also create a new project, and you can also work with the projects. Like you can also add the, you can create the app, say what is the model name, what is the system drawn, everything you can able to work into it, right? And you can also add the component, whether you have to add a knowledge base, you can also add a knowledge base, you can also add a guardrail, you can also add a function, anything you can do, right? So that's not going to be the biggest issue. Now you can also explore it over here. You can select the model, like how the chat GPT's like the overview would look like, the same stuff, but it gonna work on the basis of the organization point of view. You can also use MetaLlamma too, like you can also ask the model to work with it. So yes, it looks like the same stuff. So that's it. So this is all about Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace, and I hope you have understood what Amazon Bedrock Studio Workspace is all about. To be more precise, it's still in the preview mode. It's not available in general. It's not available generally. So, but you can also create. You can experiment this. But the very important stuff, you can't able to delete your workspace, right? But I'll show you how we can able to. Right, you are supposed to do something else extra to delete your workspace. Wait for my blog and LinkedIn to make sure how to delete your workspace and delete your workspace to make sure what are the components you have to delete it, so that you can able to easily understand, right? So if you like the video, you can make sure to leave your comments if you have any comments below. So feel free to comment it. I can able to answer your questions. And if you have not subscribed me, you can please subscribe. And moreover, if my LinkedIn ID is Rahul Gopal, if you just go and follow me in LinkedIn, and I'll happy to hear back if any comments are there. And if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, here you go ahead and subscribe to my newsletter, and I'll be posting GenAI contents and GenAI research papers weekly twice, and weekly, at least weekly once, right? I'm planning at least weekly once, so I don't want to push it into the case extra, right? So thank you for listening, and happy day, happy AI. Bye bye.